Good morning from South Island, New Zealand.
We kicked off in Christchurch, and from there we headed to Lake Tekapo and saw the beautiful mountain of Mount Cook. From there we headed on to Dunedin, stayed in a castle, spent the last few days in Te Anau exploring Milford Sound, and today we have come down to Pearl Harbour and we have something very exciting to do. We are cruising through the Doubtful Sound.
So we're just waiting that little while just so we can jump on the boat, but yeah, we can't wait to see what this one's like. And if you stay to the end of the video, we'll do a comparison between Milford Sound and Doubtful Sound.
So we're really curious to actually learn more about Doubtful Sound today. So yesterday we learnt the difference between a fjord and a sound because they can actually appear quite similar. So a sound is a river valley that is flooded by seawater, and a fjord is a glaciated valley that is flooded by seawater. And what we learnt yesterday about Milford Sound is that that was actually originally a glaciated valley and then it got flooded by seawater, so it is technically a fjord, although it is referred to as a sound. So I'd be quite curious to learn more about Doubtful Sound and see if that's the same or if it's different.
So just jumped off the boat now and we've just got one more bus ride to go, and then we're jumping on the actual real boat that we meant to be on. So made it on our first stop along this bus ride, which is, I can't remember what river it is.
I'm not sure, but wait till you see this view there.
Another stop, but this one, oh yeah, you need to see this one.
I don't even care that I'm freezing cold. That view is just absolutely stunning.
Alright, and we've made it across. And we're actually on the boat now to go across through Doubtful Sound. And we're just on one of the arms of Doubtful Sound, so we're going to go through that and we get to the main area. Yep, that is windy.
It's windy.
Well, sorry about the wind, but yeah, this is absolutely brilliant. Oh, there she is. Come on. How are you going with the wind?
It's very, very windy and blowing us over, but the good news about it is that it means that we pretty much have this top area to ourselves. So
yeah,
you got to find the silver lining and everything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We get absolutely soaked, but we get to drink fresh from a waterfall right from the ship. Alright, and we just run the bus back now. The long drive and boat home.
A few moments later.
Alright, so how are you feeling?
Wowie, that was a long day. It's
Yeah.
good to be back on mainland. But yeah, just a lot of travel, but such a good day. Oh my gosh, I can't wait till you guys see the footage.
And stay tuned while we compare. But for now, we've got a plane to catch. So hold that thought. The weather in the area is a little too bad. The sea's got a bit of a swell to it. So we're going to reassess and try again tomorrow morning. All right, we're going to be jumping on this plane and let's see what the view is like up there.
Wow, that was awesome. So before today, I've been on 2 small planes in my life. So the first time was when I skydived a couple years ago at Jurien Bay in Perth. And honestly, I found the small plane more scary than the actual skydive itself. Call me crazy, but I just didn't really enjoy the plane ride. And then a few years ago, we did a regional flight on a little small plane. It was like 8 seats each side, that was it. And it was quite stormy and bumpy. I felt so sick. I was so anxious the whole time. And I was like, I got off that plane and I was literally like, I'm never flying on a small plane ever again. But then I saw the seaplanes here and I just really wanted to do it because we've never been on a seaplane. And I also kind of wanted to get over that fear too, because I tell people all the time, every day, like when I talk to people, if you're living in fear, you're not really living. And I thought it's about time I start living by my own advice. And oh my gosh, I'm so glad we did it. I had the best time. I didn't feel scared at all. Our pilot was awesome. He talked through everything. And it's actually quite, like they said, today's like the weather is a bit touch and go. And we managed to get a small gap to just get up there. And it's not really the ideal weather, but it was still such a good time.
We're so glad that we actually did that because this is our last day in Te Anau, and this is the only place that actually has a seaplane within the South Island. So really lucky that we actually got to do this. And we were actually scheduled to do this at 12 o'clock today, so around lunchtime. And we thought we'd just go into there just to see how they're going with the weather and all that. But yeah, they actually were about to pack up, which is, what is it time now? It's 11 o'clock now, and they're actually packing up their planes. So really lucky we actually got onto this. And the reason that they're packing up is actually because the weather over here is just, you can just throw the dice and the weather can change like every 5 minutes. And yeah, it looks like the weather's turning in. So yeah, we're lucky to get on it.
All right, so we're just sitting up at the Fiordland Visitor Centre, which is actually a really beautiful area if you wanted to come and have a picnic or something. There's plenty of parking too. But as promised, we have now had a night to sleep on both of the Milford Sound and Doubtful Sound cruises, and we're here to chat to you about them. So I'm going to preface this by just saying that both of them were absolutely beautiful. They're both magnificent. If you have the time to do both, you should. However, we understand you might not have the time or the budget to do both. So we're going to tell you what we thought of them both to help you make your mind up for your journey. I think one of the biggest appeals to Milford is that it's a little bit more accessible. So where you get the cruise from, you can actually self-drive there. We chose not to, and we did the bus with Real NZ Tours, which was absolutely awesome. We don't regret it at all. But we chose to do the bus, even though we did have a hire car, because we were told a lot about how like bad the road is to get there. Honestly, the road was so much better built than some of the other roads we've driven on in New Zealand.
Yeah.
However, it is very windy, it is very mountainous, and there's one-way bridges and tunnels. So if you're not comfortable with those things, definitely
do the cruise. Yeah.
Take the bus that takes you to the cruise. Whereas Doubtful Sound is not accessible by private vehicle. You have to go on a tour to go to Doubtful Sound. So you get a cruise that takes you across Lake Manapori, and then from there you get onto a bus which takes you down a private access road. So the only way you would drive on that road is either in a service vehicle or in a private access bus, and from there you jump onto the actual cruise for Doubtful Sound. So the journey is a little bit different for both of them. So I think that can make Milford a little bit more accessible for some people and a little bit more affordable to do as well. But scenery-wise along the journey, they're both beautiful. They're both different. We saw more wildlife on the Milford one. Do you want to tell me about the birds that we saw on the way down to Milford Sound?
Yeah, so on the Milford Sound track that we took, so we got to see the bird, the kea, and that is an endangered bird. So there's about 7,000 of them left in the wild, but we actually got pretty lucky. There was quite a few along one of the stops that they make on the actual bus tour itself. And yeah, everyone jumped out, took a few photos and all that. But no, it was really good to see them out in the wild. But even one of them actually jumped on one of the cars in front of our bus and decided to do a bit of a joyride. But that was pretty cool.
Yeah. They're quite smart, cheeky little buggers, is what I learned about them.
Yeah. Apparently the kea has the average intelligence of a chimpanzee, so they're actually really smart. But,
I think that's one of the other advantages to going with like a guide down to that area too, because they know the good spots. If you're looking for the wildlife, they sort of know where they're going to be and where to stop. And they did. Like, our driver was awesome. He was like giving us a lot of factual commentary, but also giving us a good laugh at the same time. But he knew where the birds were going to be, and he just stopped the bus and he goes, I think there's a good chance if we get out here, you might be able to photograph a kea. If we drove, we would have driven straight past that spot and had no idea, and we would have missed it. So I'm glad we did that. That was a big highlight for Matt. He really wanted to. Yeah. He said when we got to this town, I really want to photograph a kea. And then we walked into our hotel and they had a big photo of one up on the wall, and we're like, okay, maybe this is going to be the place where we can. And I think if we didn't do that trip, we would have completely missed that. So thanks, Dino, our bus driver, for that one. He was great. The tour itself, do you want to mention anything about the tour, like comparing the two?
Comparing the two for the tour, like, I feel like the Milford Sound tour probably had a lot more information, but in saying that, because the actual Milford tour itself had a lot more tourists on there, it was a little bit harder to hear a lot of the information. But I mean, that's not the tour guide's fault, but it was a little bit harder to concentrate on what he was saying. But I feel like there was a lot of information given on the Milford tour, like compared to the Doubtful Sound tour along the way there.
Yeah, so I think like the Doubtful Sound tour, so we did both our tours with Real NZ, and the Doubtful Sound tour definitely felt a lot more intimate. It was definitely a much smaller group than what was on the Milford tour. And they do both book out, so do make sure you book into them. But the difference is with the Milford one, even though we were on a Real NZ bus, once you get down to the cruise, you're joined with people from other bus companies as well. And the boat, just gets super full, and there's people everywhere, and it's like it was a lot more noisy. So like Matt said, it was difficult to hear the nature guide, unfortunately. So we did miss a lot of the information they were trying to tell us. And the cruise time itself was a lot shorter. We were actually only on the water for about an hour and 45 minutes. The Doubtful Sound one, I lost track of how long we were on the water for the actual Doubtful Sound cruise, but it was definitely a lot longer than that. And because you have the other cruise across the lake and then again at the end of the day, you just have a lot more time actually on a boat versus in the Milford Sound. You spend a lot more time on the drive to actually get to and from there. Both tours started at 10 and finished at 5, so it was the exact same time we were out for both of them, but I personally feel like you get a lot better value for your money for Doubtful Sound. It did cost a little bit more, but I feel like the value for money was more there. We just sort of did a lot more, and we were able to interact with the staff a bit more because there was less congestion of people. The staff seemed a little bit more relaxed as well, and our nature guide for Doubtful Sound was epic. Harry, he just had so much energy, and there was a point where like we got up to this waterfall, and he just like comes out these jugs and he's carrying them and trying to collect as much rainwater as he can from the waterfall for everyone to try. And we jumped out there as well and got absolutely soaked. So if you do either of them, dress insanely warm. It was freezing on both of them, especially if you want to go out when the boat is moving. It was freezing to your bones, and we got absolutely soaked on Doubtful, which we could have on either of them, to be honest. That was just our choice not to go out there for that part of the Milford Sound cruise. But the weather changes like literally like you blink your eyes and the weather's changing. So you can't plan for it. Don't even bother checking the weather in the morning. It will not be the same by the time you get to the sound, and it will not be the same an hour later or an hour after that. And our guides pretty much all confirmed that it's just the nature of these areas. They rain a lot. It's fiordland at the end of the day. And yeah, but in saying that, you can get blue skies apparently in really nice days.
Yes.
If that happens, I imagine it would get quite warm in the sun. So layers is key, but definitely take your rain gear and your cold weather gear with you.
Absolutely.
What about the wildlife? Do you want to tell them? Like, we did see a little bit of wildlife on both cruises themselves. Unfortunately, we only saw a little bit, but on Milford Sound,
Milford Sound.
Seal.
Yeah. So we did see one young pup one pup seal.
Seal pup.
Yeah. So we saw one of those just getting closer to the Tasman Sea. That was absolutely awesome. He was just sitting there, just almost sunbaking. But yeah, from what we've been told, there is usually more wildlife on the Doubtful Sound tour, but due to the weather, there wasn't too much out there. We did miss the penguins. I did try and capture some that were out there, but I couldn't quite get them. They were pretty far out.
Yeah, so to clarify, we could see them, but it was just the boat was moving and they were moving and we weren't able to actually film them, but we did see about like a dozen penguins or so out in this little rock island. So that was cool. We got to see them at least.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah. But it was a really like wet, wild and windy day is literally what they called it, and definitely accurate description. And the Tasman Sea itself was a bit angry, so there was a part where like the boat actually like rocked quite a bit, and the cups and forks and everything kind of just like moved and went flying a little bit. But beyond that, the boat rides, like I'm a seasick person and I was really comfortable for like 90% of the journey. It was probably there was a very like maybe 3-4 minutes on the Milford Sound cruise where it got a little bit rocky and I felt the water change. And on Doubtful, there was maybe a 10-minute period where they tried really hard to actually get us on the Tasman Sea, but it was just, she was too angry and it wasn't happening. So
yeah, the boat was really rocking, and it was very hard to stand up or anything like that. So a lot of people were sitting down for it.
Or as they say, one hand to the boat, one hand for you, because if you don't, you will you'll just flip over or something. You don't want to do that and ruin the rest of your trip. So definitely listen to their advice.
Absolutely.
But overall, like personally, I really enjoyed both of them. I think it's absolutely worth doing both if you can. I would happily do both again, but I think for me, if I only had the time to choose one of them again, I'd probably do the Doubtful Sound cruise again. What about you?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I feel like definitely value for money. Definitely wanting to do more like Doubtful Sound one, because you get multiple different trips. So you do 2 different bus rides. You do the boat to get there. You do the boats on the actual Doubtful Sounds fjord, and it's more or less an all-day affair. And for the price of it, it's really reasonable.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. So, is there anything else you want to add about both of them?
No, about both of them.
Or about anything to do with them at all?
Oh, I think if you're gonna go there with the expectation of just seeing mountaintops or anything like that, I mean, yes, you will. But if you're going there to see a lot of waterfalls, you will see so many waterfalls. It's absolutely amazing. And the sea captains on both of them were absolutely brilliant. The guides that were on all of them, like the boats and the buses, are incredible. So no, I really recommend Real NZ for those guys. They did great.
They were awesome. Like we would book them again, and I think we've actually got a few other things coming up along our travels that we'll be using them again for, because they were really awesome, right from booking to checking in and the tours themselves. So highly recommend Real NZ. And yeah, like Matt said, if you're going for waterfalls and mountaintops, you will see them. But however they are today will not be the same tomorrow, because the waterfalls change based on how much rain there's been, and the mountaintops, there's this beautiful thing called cloud, and the cloud comes down real low. So sometimes you see them, sometimes you don't. So I think just go with open expectations and just take in however you see it. It might not be what you were expecting, but you've just got to accept it for what it is and see the beauty in that, because what you see on the day you go will be different to what we've just seen.
Yep.
And it will be different to what the next person sees, and that in itself is absolutely awesome. So
Yeah. All right.
I think that
Think
pretty
that-
much
Yeah, that's
covers
something I want to.
So yeah, so we hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and while we travelled to Doubtful Sound and snuck in our little mystery flight there.
Yes.
That worked out
was
really
awesome.
well. But yeah, definitely make sure you subscribe and like this video, because we have a lot more coming around NZ and we can't wait to show you.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
We'll see you in the next one.
See you soon.